Welcome to the deep dive.
Yep.
Today we're going to be tackling brownfields redevelopment.
Okay.
We're going to be exploring how we can turn these often, let's be honest, unsightly properties into valuable assets for communities.
Yeah.
And to guide us on this journey, we have a fantastic resource, a comprehensive guidebook from the International City-County Management Association,
Okay.
or ICMA for short.
Right.
It's full of real-world examples and expert insights.
Sounds great.
So you ready to roll up our sleeves and dive in?
Let's do it. Brownfields represent both a challenge and a huge opportunity.
Okay.
They're these properties, often with a past life in industry or commerce, that are just sitting there,
Right.
underused or completely abandoned.
Yeah.
And often there's this cloud of contamination, real or perceived, hanging over them. That's what makes them so tricky,
Yeah.
but also so fascinating to work with.
Okay, so we're talking about taking places that might be considered environmental eyesores
Yeah.
and turning them into, say, vibrant parks, thriving businesses, maybe even affordable housing.
Exactly.
Wow.
And the ICMA Guidebook really emphasizes that successful brownfields redevelopment isn't just about the cleanup.
Okay.
It's about building the right team, securing the necessary funding, and perhaps most importantly, making sure the community is truly involved every step of the way.
Right. You can't just barge in and start bulldozing
Yeah.
without considering the people who live and work nearby.
Exactly.
The guidebook talks about this team approach, right?
It does.
All right.
It stresses how crucial it is to bring together all the different players, government agencies at all levels.
Okay.
Private developers, community groups, even universities.
Wow.
Everyone has a role to play.
It's like a giant puzzle where everyone has a piece to contribute.
Yeah.
But I imagine that can lead to some pretty intense discussions, getting everyone on the same page about goals and timelines.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Managing expectations is absolutely essential.
Right.
Everyone involved needs a clear understanding of the potential challenges, the resources needed, and the time it takes for these projects to bear fruit. We're often dealing with sites that have decades of industrial history.
Oh, wow.
So patience and persistence are key.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Money.
Okay.
These projects can't be cheap.
Right.
Where does the funding come from, especially for smaller communities or startups that might be interested in this kind of redevelopment?
That's a great question.
Right.
And the guidebook is very upfront about the fact that securing funding is one of the biggest hurdles.
Right.
Public financing options,
Okay.
such as grants, loans, loan guarantees, can be crucial, especially in the early stages.
Yeah.
They even highlight innovative tools like tax increment financing.
Tax increment financing.
Yeah,
That sounds interesting.
it is.
Tell me more.
It's a really clever mechanism.
Okay.
Essentially, you use the future increase in property taxes that you expect to see because of the redevelopment to pay for the upfront costs. So in a way, the project ends up financing itself over time.
I see. So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy,
Yeah.
using the anticipated success of the project to fuel its initial stages.
Right.
Does the guidebook offer any real-world examples of communities successfully navigating these financial challenges?
It does. What's one? One that stands out is a story of Provo, Utah,
Okay.
and their partnership with U.S. Steel to redevelop the Ironton site, a former industrial area.
Okay.
It wasn't a walk in the park, though.
Really?
They faced some major obstacles and communication breakdowns early on.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
How did they manage to turn things around?
Persistence and a commitment to collaboration were key.
Okay.
The city demonstrated their commitment by securing an option to buy the property. That showed U.S. Steel they were serious,
All right.
and they didn't stop there.
Wow.
Letters from the mayor, even the governor, were sent.
Oh, wow.
And they even went so far as to visit U.S. Steel headquarters to plead their case.
Wow. Talk about going the extra mile.
Right.
That personal touch can really make a difference when it comes to building trust and getting everyone on the same page.
Exactly. And that's a key point. The guidebook underscores fostering strong relationships and maintaining open communication are essential for overcoming obstacles and finding creative solutions.
Okay, let's move on to the community aspect.
Right.
We touched on it briefly before.
Yeah.
But how do you move beyond just informing residents about a project to truly empowering them to shape the future of their neighborhoods?
That's where community engagement becomes so critical.
Yeah.
And it's not just about holding a public meeting or sending out a newsletter.
Right.
The guidebook stresses the importance of involving residents in the decision-making process from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They need to feel like their voices are heard, that their concerns are taken seriously.
Can you give us a concrete example of what that looks like in action?
Sure.
Something from the ICMA guidebook that really illustrates this approach.
There's a great story about the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association, or CMAA, in Lowell, Massachusetts.
Okay.
They took a brownfield site and turned it into a vibrant community and economic development center.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
What kind of center are we talking about?
Oh,
Office
oh,
buildings,
yeah.
retail space.
Think more along the lines of commercial fish tanks and hydroponic vegetables.
Whoa.
They created this truly unique space that provides training and employment opportunities and even produces fresh, culturally relevant food for the local Cambodian community.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's a really neat example.
It really shows how brownfields redevelopment can go beyond simply addressing environmental issues and actually make a tangible difference in people's lives.
Exactly.
So cool.
It's a perfect example of what can be achieved when you prioritize community needs and empower residents to shape their own future.
Yeah.
And the guidebook offers some great recommendations for effective community outreach and education.
Okay.
It's all about ensuring residents understand the process, the potential benefits,
Right.
and that they have a real voice in shaping their neighborhood's future.
Okay, so we've talked about the complexity of these projects, the financial hurdles, and the vital role of community involvement.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, when you hear the word brownfield,
Right.
excitement isn't exactly the first thing that springs to mind.
Nah.
What kinds of projects are we actually talking about here?
That's the beauty of it. The possibilities are incredibly diverse.
Okay.
It's not just about cleaning up a site and putting a factory back in its place.
Right.
Brownfields redevelopment can be a catalyst for all sorts of exciting transformations.
Give us some examples.
Okay.
I'm ready to be wowed.
Get ready to be wowed. The guidebook showcases projects that have turned former industrial sites into vibrant transportation hubs.
Okay.
Take the Dock Street Connector in Stamford, Connecticut, for example. It connects the city's transportation center to a major interstate.
So we're talking about turning eyesores into gateways.
Right.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
What else?
It gets even better. Imagine a former landfill in Dallas, Texas,
Okay.
transformed into a thriving residential complex.
Really?
They highlight projects where blighted areas have become attractive, market-rate housing.
Okay. That one's impressive. Turning a landfill into a place where people actually want to live takes some serious vision and ingenuity.
It really does.
What other transformations are we looking at?
How about reimagining brownfields as green infrastructure?
Okay.
Picture greenways, parks, and recreational opportunities where once there were only industrial buildings.
Wow.
The guidebook highlights a fantastic project in Providence, Rhode Island,
Okay.
where they revitalized a waterfront area, blending economic development with ecological sensitivity.
Wait, so we can use these sites to improve the environment, not just clean up past damage?
You're catching on. It's all about thinking outside the box.
Oh.
And it doesn't stop there.
Really?
They also discuss waterfront revitalization projects, like the successful transformation of the West Harbour District in Coburg, Ontario.
Wow, this is blowing my mind.
There are so many possibilities.
So many possibilities.
It sounds like these projects can address multiple needs at once: economic development, community revitalization, and environmental concerns.
Exactly.
It all starts with a shift in perspective, seeing brownfields not as liabilities, but as canvases for positive change.
This is making me wonder, are there any really cutting-edge, innovative approaches to brownfields redevelopment that are pushing the boundaries even further?
There are. One concept that caught my eye is the development of eco-industrial parks,
Okay.
or EIPs.
Eco-industrial parks.
Yeah.
I'm all ears.
Imagine a group of businesses co-located in a way that fosters collaboration and resource sharing.
So instead of each business operating in isolation, they're designed to work together.
Right.
How does that work in practice?
It's about creating closed-loop systems where one business's waste becomes another's valuable resource.
Right.
For example, excess heat from one facility could be used to heat a nearby greenhouse. This kind of setup reduces waste, lowers costs, and minimizes environmental impact.
That's incredible.
It is.
It's like an industrial ecosystem.
Yeah.
Does the guidebook provide any real-world examples of these EIPs in action?
It does. They discuss the Raymond Green Eco-Industrial Park, which demonstrates how this model can be environmentally and economically sustainable.
This is also inspiring. I'm starting to see brownfields in a whole new light.
Yeah,
But I imagine these projects are still incredibly complex with unique challenges and considerations.
you're right.
Yeah,
There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
right.
Every brownfield site has its own history, its own environmental concerns, and its own community context.
So what are some of the key takeaways for our listeners, the things they should keep in mind if they're interested in exploring brownfields redevelopment in their own communities?
First and foremost, remember that community involvement is paramount.
Mm-hmm.
These projects thrive when residents are engaged,
Right.
their voices are heard, and their needs are addressed.
Yeah.
It's not just about cleaning up a site,
Right.
it's about improving lives.
And as we've seen, brownfields redevelopment can be a catalyst for so much more than just new development.
Exactly.
We're talking about creating parks, green spaces, affordable housing, transportation hubs.
Yeah.
It's about revitalizing entire communities.
It is.
And don't be afraid to think outside the box.
Right.
Explore innovative solutions like eco-industrial parks,
Right.
which can create sustainable economic opportunities
Yeah.
while minimizing environmental impact.
Absolutely.
This has been an incredible deep dive. I'm feeling so energized by the potential of brownfields redevelopment to create positive change.
Yeah, me too.
But before we wrap up,
Okay.
I have one final thought-provoking question for our listeners.
All right.
Given everything we've learned about the potential of brownfields redevelopment to revitalize communities, create economic opportunities, and address environmental concerns, what creative solutions might be possible in your own community? What hidden gems are waiting to be unearthed and transformed into something truly special?
That's a great question to ponder. I'd love to hear what our listeners come up with.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your ideas with us on social media, and let's keep this conversation going.
Great.
Until next time, happy deep diving.
See ya. You know, as we've been discussing these exciting possibilities,
Yeah,
it's important to remember that brownfields redevelopment also comes with its fair share of risks.
right.
We've touched on the financial aspects,
Hmm?
but what about the environmental and health risks?
Yeah, that's a crucial point.
Yeah.
We can't just assume that cleaning up a site automatically makes it safe for people to live, work, or play there.
Right.
What kind of insights does the guidebook offer on managing these risks?
The ICMA Guidebook dedicates a significant portion to risk communication.
Okay.
This means being transparent with the community about potential hazards
Mm-hmm.
and actively involving them in the decision-making process.
So it's not about downplaying concerns or trying to sweep potential risks under the rug,
Right.
but rather having an open and honest conversation with residents?
Precisely. And it all starts with a solid risk communication plan.
Yeah.
The guidebook outlines some key questions to consider.
Okay.
Who are we trying to reach?
Right.
What are the most effective ways to reach them?
Hmm.
And what message are we trying to convey?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You can't just use a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
You need to tailor your communication strategies to the specific community and the specific risks involved.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They emphasize the importance of community outreach,
Yeah.
of creating a two-way dialogue where you're not just talking at residents,
Mm-hmm.
but actively listening to their concerns and addressing them in a meaningful way.
It sounds like building trust is crucial,
Yeah.
making people feel like they're part of the solution,
Right.
not just passive recipients of information.
Exactly.
This must be especially important in communities that have a history of environmental injustice,
Yeah.
where they've been disproportionately impacted by pollution and contamination.
You hit the nail on the head. The guidebook acknowledges that brownfields are often located in low-income communities and communities of color that have already borne the brunt of industrial pollution.
Right.
Redevelopment efforts need to be sensitive to this history and actively work to address these inequities.
It's about ensuring that everyone benefits from these projects,
Yeah,
not just developers
Yeah.
or more affluent residents.
precisely.
Okay.
And the guidebook goes beyond risk communication, highlighting the importance of public education.
Okay.
It's about empowering residents with the knowledge they need to understand the complexities of brownfields redevelopment and to advocate for their own health and well-being.
So equipping people to be informed participants in the process,
Right.
not just bystanders.
Exactly.
What kind of educational initiatives are they talking about?
They discuss a variety of approaches,
Right.
community workshops,
Right.
training programs,
Right.
even educational resources for teachers and students.
Speaking of students, I was really impressed by the section on Brownfields job training. It's not just about cleaning up a site.
Right.
It's about creating opportunities for residents to gain valuable skills and build careers in the environmental field.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
They highlight programs like the EPA's Brownfields Job Training and Development Demonstration Pilots,
Hmm.
which provide funding and support for partnerships between community groups, job training organizations, and educational institutions.
It's fantastic that they're creating pathways for people
Mm.
to not only benefit from the redevelopment, but to actually be part of the solution.
Yeah,
And it's not just entry-level jobs, right?
right.
They mention programs that offer advanced training in areas like environmental assessment, remediation,
Yeah,
and even green infrastructure development.
you got it.
That's great.
It's about creating a diverse workforce equipped to tackle the environmental challenges of the future.
Let's dive into some of the specific challenges and opportunities that come with brownfields redevelopment,
Okay.
starting with the issue of urban sprawl. I know this is a major concern for many communities as development pushes further and further outward,
Yeah,
encroaching on natural habitats and agricultural lands.
right.
Urban sprawl is a huge issue,
It is.
and the guidebook tackles it head on.
They do.
What do they say?
They advocate for infill development,
Okay.
which means focusing on redeveloping underused or abandoned properties within existing urban areas rather than expanding outward.
So making the most of the space we already have,
Yeah.
revitalizing existing neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
and reducing the pressure to develop pristine green fields.
Exactly.
What strategies do they recommend for promoting infill development?
It starts with smart land use planning.
Okay.
They talk about creating mixed-use developments that combine residential, commercial, and even industrial uses
Okay.
in a way that's walkable and transit-oriented.
So instead of sprawling suburbs where you need a car to go everywhere,
Right.
you're creating vibrant urban centers where people can live, work, and play all within a relatively small area.
Exactly. And they highlight the importance of transportation infrastructure.
Okay.
Many brownfields are strategically located near existing rail lines or waterways, making them ideal candidates for redevelopment as transportation hubs.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's about leveraging the existing infrastructure and creating connections that reduce our dependence on cars.
And let's not forget about market rate housing.
Right.
As cities become more desirable places to live,
Yeah.
brownfields redevelopment can play a key role in providing attractive and affordable housing options close to jobs and amenities.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If people can find affordable housing in thriving urban centers,
Right.
it reduces the pressure to commute long distances or to move to more sprawling suburban areas.
Exactly.
Does the guidebook offer any examples of successful brownfield redevelopment projects that address the issue of urban sprawl?
They do. They showcase several projects that have transformed former industrial areas into vibrant mixed-use developments,
Okay.
like the Belmont Dairy Row houses in Portland, Oregon. This project turned a former dairy processing plant into a thriving residential community with a mix of housing types, including affordable units.
That's a fantastic example of how brownfields redevelopment can be a win-win for both the community and the environment.
It is.
But let's be realistic, not all brownfields are created equal.
Right?
Some sites present unique challenges, don't they?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The guidebook dedicates a whole section to the challenges and opportunities associated with redeveloping rural brownfields,
Okay.
which often face different economic realities and environmental concerns than their urban counterparts.
That's an important distinction.
Yeah.
We can't just assume that the same approaches will work in every context.
Right.
What are some of the key challenges they highlight?
Rural communities often struggle with a lack of resources,
Okay.
both financial and technical.
Right.
They may not have the same access to funding programs or the same level of expertise in dealing with complex environmental issues.
So it becomes about finding creative ways to leverage limited resources
Yeah.
and building partnerships that can provide the necessary support.
Exactly. They also talk about the importance of understanding the unique environmental concerns associated with rural brownfields. For example, agricultural brownfields might be contaminated with pesticides or fertilizers,
Right.
which require different remediation strategies than industrial sites.
It's about tailoring the approach to the specific context.
Right.
And I imagine community involvement is just as crucial in rural areas as it is in urban centers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, it might be even more important in rural communities,
Okay.
where residents often have a deep connection to the land and a strong sense of place.
Right.
They need to be at the table, driving the decision-making process and ensuring that the redevelopment truly benefits the entire community.
Let's shift our focus to another type of brownfield that presents its own unique set of challenges and opportunities.
Okay.
waterfronts.
Right.
I imagine these sites are highly desirable for redevelopment.
They-
But they also come with a lot of environmental sensitivities.
You're right.
Yeah.
Waterfront brownfields are often located in areas with delicate ecosystems,
Right.
and redevelopment needs to be approached with careful planning and a deep respect for the environment.
What are some of the key considerations that the guidebook highlights?
They emphasize the importance of understanding the web of regulations that govern waterfront development.
Okay.
We're talking about the Clean Water Act, the Coastal Zone Management Act,
Yeah.
the Endangered Species Act,
Mhm.
and potentially a host of local ordinances.
So it's not a project for the faint of heart.
No, it's not.
You need a team of experts who can navigate these regulatory hurdles and ensure that the redevelopment is both economically viable and environmentally responsible.
Exactly.
Okay.
They also talk about the importance of integrated planning.
Yeah.
You can't just focus on the brownfield site itself.
Right.
You need to consider the entire watershed and the interconnectedness of the ecosystem.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
If you're redeveloping a waterfront area,
Yeah. Right?
you need to think about how it will impact water quality,
Mm-hmm.
wildlife habitats,
Yeah.
and even recreational opportunities.
Right.
And they highlight the importance of community engagement,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to preserving the historical and cultural significance of waterfront areas.
Absolutely.
These sites often have a rich history,
They do.
and residents need to have a voice in how that history is honored and preserved as part of the redevelopment process.
It's about finding that balance between economic development,
Yeah.
environmental protection,
Mm.
and community values.
Does the guidebook provide any examples of successful waterfront brownfield redevelopment projects?
There's a great example in the revitalization of the West Harbour District in Cobourg, Ontario. This project transformed a former industrial area into a vibrant waterfront destination, complete with a marina,
Wow.
shops,
Wow.
restaurants, and a public park.
That sounds incredible.
It is.
It seems like they managed to create a space that's both economically successful and environmentally sustainable.
Yeah,
And they accomplished this by working closely with the community, right?
exactly.
Really? Okay.
They involved residents every step of the way, from developing the initial plans to selecting the final designs. This ensured that the redevelopment truly reflected the community's vision for their waterfront.
This makes me wonder, are there any other types of brownfields that present unique challenges or opportunities that we haven't touched on yet?
There are. The guidebook also delves into the redevelopment of former military bases.
Oh.
These projects often involve addressing a legacy of contamination from activities like weapons testing and fuel storage.
Wow, that sounds incredibly complex.
It can be.
How do communities even begin to tackle something like that?
It starts with a thorough assessment of the environmental risks,
Okay.
which can be a costly and time-consuming process.
Right.
The guidebook stresses the importance of working closely with federal agencies like the Department of Defense to access funding and technical assistance.
So it's about building those crucial partnerships
Mm.
and leveraging resources from multiple levels of government.
Right.
And I'm guessing community involvement is just as vital in these projects.
Absolutely. Redeveloping a former military base can have a significant impact on the surrounding community.
Yeah.
And residents need to have a voice in how that redevelopment unfolds.
Right.
It's about ensuring that these projects benefit everyone, not just the developers or the government agencies involved.
Okay.
But let's be honest,
Yeah.
sometimes brownfields redevelopment can feel like an uphill battle,
Right.
especially when you're dealing with complex environmental issues, bureaucratic hurdles, and funding challenges.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's easy to get discouraged when faced with such a daunting task.
Right.
What words of wisdom does the guidebook offer?
Well, they dedicate a whole section to best practices and strategies for success.
Okay.
A key theme throughout is the importance of collaboration. These projects work best when everyone is rowing in the same direction.
Yeah.
Government agencies, private developers,
Right.
community groups,
Yeah.
everyone.
So it's about breaking down those silos and working together to find solutions that benefit everyone.
Exactly. They also talk about the importance of thinking long-term.
Okay.
Brownfields redevelopment isn't a quick fix.
Right.
It's a process that can take years, even decades, to fully unfold.
It's about having a vision for the future and being persistent in pursuing that vision,
Right,
even when faced with obstacles.
right.
And they stress the importance of learning from other communities.
Absolutely.
The guidebook is chock full of real-world examples of successful brownfields redevelopment projects.
Yeah, it is.
There's a wealth of knowledge and experience out there that communities can tap into.
Yeah,
It's about not reinventing the wheel.
right.
Look at what other communities have done.
Right.
Learn from their successes and failures.
Yeah.
And adapt those lessons to your own unique context. This makes me think about the importance of leadership in these projects.
Yeah.
Who are the key players that need to be at the table to ensure that these projects move forward successfully?
That's a great question. The guidebook emphasizes the need for a strong and dedicated Brownfields team
Okay.
that can provide leadership, coordination, and expertise throughout the process. This team might include representatives from various city departments like planning, economic development, and environmental protection.
So you need that core group of people who are passionate about brownfields redevelopment and committed to seeing these projects through to completion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They also talk about getting elected officials involved early on.
Right.
Having the support of the mayor, city council, or other key decision makers can be essential for securing funding,
Yeah.
navigating regulatory hurdles, and building community buy-in.
It's about making brownfields redevelopment a priority for the entire community, not just a pet project for a few dedicated individuals. And I imagine having strong partnerships with private developers is as essential as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Private developers bring the financial resources, the construction expertise, and the market knowledge that are essential for turning brownfields into thriving businesses, housing developments, or recreational spaces.
But it's not just about handing the project over to a developer and hoping for the best right.
Right.
The guidebook emphasizes the importance of establishing clear expectations and accountability measures to ensure that the redevelopment aligns with the community's vision.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
It's about creating a true partnership where everyone is working together toward a common goal.
Right.
And that goal should be to create a redevelopment project that not only cleans up the environmental contamination, but also brings lasting economic, social, and environmental benefits to the entire community.
All right, let's wrap up this part of our deep dive by circling back to a concept that's come up repeatedly.
Okay.
The importance of community involvement.
Yeah.
Why is this so crucial for the success of brownfields redevelopment projects?
Community involvement is absolutely essential for several reasons.
Okay.
First and foremost, it ensures that the redevelopment project reflects the needs and desires of the people who live and work in the affected area.
Right.
Brownfields are often located in neighborhoods that have been historically marginalized or overlooked.
Yeah.
And community involvement gives residents a voice in shaping the future of their community.
It's about empowering residents to be active participants in the process,
Right.
not just passive recipients of decisions made by outside experts or developers.
Exactly.
And it's not just about getting community input at the beginning of the project, is it?
No, it's not.
The guidebook emphasizes the importance of ongoing engagement throughout the entire redevelopment process.
You're absolutely right. Community involvement should be a continuous process.
Yeah.
From the initial assessment of the site to the final stages of construction and beyond.
This ensures that residents have a chance to provide feedback, raise concerns, and celebrate successes along the way.
It's about building trust and creating a sense of ownership for the project within the community.
What are some of the specific ways that communities can be involved in brownfields redevelopment?
The guidebook offers a wide range of strategies,
Okay.
from traditional methods like public meetings and community surveys to more innovative approaches like community design charrettes and participatory budgeting.
Wow.
The key is to find methods that are appropriate for the specific community and the specific project.
So being flexible and creative in finding ways to engage residents in a meaningful way.
Exactly.
And it's not just about informing the community about the project, right?
Right.
It's about giving residents the tools and resources they need to be active participants in the decision-making process.
You got it. The guidebook talks about providing residents with access to information about the site, the remediation technologies,
Okay.
and the potential redevelopment options. They also stress the importance of providing training and technical assistance to community groups so they can effectively advocate for their interests.
It's about leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone has a seat at the table,
Yeah.
regardless of their technical expertise or political influence.
And I imagine community involvement can also help to build support for brownfields redevelopment projects,
Right.
which can sometimes face opposition from residents who are concerned about potential environmental risks or fear that the redevelopment will displace existing businesses or residents.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When residents are involved in the process from the very beginning,
Right.
they are more likely to understand the benefits of brownfields redevelopment
Mm-hmm.
and to support the project,
Mm.
even if it means making some compromises along the way.
It's about building a shared vision for the future of the community, a vision that includes both economic development and environmental protection.
And it's about ensuring that the benefits of brownfields redevelopment are shared equitably among all residents.
Well said. Brownfields redevelopment has the potential to transform blighted areas into thriving centers of economic activity.
Right.
But it's important to remember that this transformation should benefit everyone, not just a select few.
Yeah.
Community involvement is the key to ensuring that brownfields redevelopment projects are truly equitable and sustainable.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation about the importance of community involvement in brownfields redevelopment.
It has.
But before we move on to the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Go for it.
Think about the brownfield sites in your own community.
Hmm.
Are there abandoned factories,
Yeah.
vacant lots, or polluted waterfronts that could be transformed into something special?
Right.
What role could you play in ensuring that these sites are redeveloped in a way that benefits everyone?
That's a powerful challenge. It is easy to feel overwhelmed by these complex issues, but each of us can contribute to a more sustainable and just future for our communities.
I completely agree. Even small actions can have a ripple effect. Now let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and explore the financial mechanisms that make brownfields redevelopment possible. We've touched on public financing,
Right.
but the guidebook also delves into private financing options.
Right. It does.
Attracting private investment is often crucial for the long-term success of these projects,
Okay.
but it's not always easy. There are perceived risks associated with contaminated sites, and investors can be hesitant.
So how do you convince investors that brownfields are worth the risk?
That's where tools like environmental insurance come in.
Okay.
It can help mitigate the financial risks for developers and lenders,
Hmm.
making these projects more appealing.
Environmental insurance. I'm not familiar with that. Could you explain how it works?
Sure. It's essentially a way to protect developers and lenders from the costs associated with unforeseen environmental liabilities.
Okay.
For instance, if unexpected contamination is discovered during construction, the insurance policy would cover the cleanup costs. I see. So it takes some of the uncertainty out of the equation,
Mm-hmm.
makes investors more comfortable putting their money into these projects. Does the guidebook mention any other strategies for attracting private investment?
It does. They highlight the importance of creating a favorable regulatory environment. States and local governments can incentivize brownfields redevelopment by streamlining permitting processes, offering tax breaks, or even providing direct financial assistance.
So it's about making it easier and more attractive for developers to choose brownfields over greenfields.
Exactly.
But it's not just about attracting private investment, is it? The guidebook also emphasizes the importance of public-private partnerships.
Absolutely.
Okay.
These partnerships can be incredibly powerful. They bring together the public sector's commitment to community benefits and environmental protection with the private sector's financial resources and development expertise.
It sounds like a symbiotic relationship where each partner brings something valuable to the table. Does the guidebook offer any examples of successful public-private partnerships in brownfield redevelopment?
There are quite a few.
Like what?
They showcase projects where cities have partnered with private developers to transform former industrial sites into vibrant mixed-use developments, affordable housing complexes, or even public parks.
That brings to mind the role of universities in brownfields redevelopment. We often think of universities as centers of research and education, but they can also be valuable partners in these projects, right?
Absolutely.
In what ways?
Universities bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise,
Okay.
from environmental science and engineering to urban planning and community development. They can also provide crucial technical assistance to communities that might not have the in-house expertise to tackle complex brownfield projects.
It's about leveraging those resources and forging connections between academia and the real world. Does the guidebook offer specific examples of how universities have been involved in brownfields redevelopment?
It does. They highlight programs where universities have partnered with communities to conduct site assessments, develop remediation plans, and even provide job training for residents. They also discuss the role of university research in developing innovative remediation technologies and sustainable development practices.
That's fantastic. It really shows how brownfields redevelopment can be a catalyst for collaboration and innovation. But as we've discussed, these projects are inherently complex, with numerous moving parts and potential challenges. What are some of the key lessons learned that the guidebook emphasizes?
One of the biggest takeaways is the importance of starting with a clear vision.
Okay.
What are the community's goals for the site? What environmental concerns need to be addressed? What kind of development will bring the greatest economic and social benefits?
It's like having a roadmap for the future, ensuring everyone is on the same page from the get-go.
Exactly. They also stress the importance of being flexible and adaptive. Brownfields redevelopment projects rarely go exactly according to plan.
Right.
It's crucial to be able to adjust course along the way as new challenges or opportunities emerge.
So being willing to think outside the box and find creative solutions is key. And I imagine communication is paramount throughout the entire process.
Absolutely. Keeping all stakeholders informed, addressing concerns, and celebrating successes along the way helps build trust and maintain momentum.
It all comes back to building those strong relationships and fostering a collaborative spirit. This has been an incredible deep dive into the world of brownfields redevelopment. We've covered so much ground, from the complexities of environmental remediation to the importance of community engagement and innovative financing mechanisms. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
I'm all ears.
The ICMA Guidebook is an invaluable resource for communities embarking on the journey of brownfields redevelopment. But it's important to remember that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Every brownfield site is unique, and every community has its own set of challenges and opportunities. The key is to approach these projects with a spirit of collaboration, innovation, and a deep commitment to creating a more sustainable and just future for all.
Well said. It's been a pleasure diving deep with you and our listeners today.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this exploration. We hope you've gained valuable insights and are feeling inspired to explore the possibilities of brownfields redevelopment in your own communities. Until next time, happy deep diving.